and welcome to another episode of the Blues Focus podcast, airing every week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm Kieran, your host for this episode. Joining me on this episode, I've got Elliot. Complete contrast to last week when we last spoke. This time we've got two positive results to talk about. We'll start with the game away at Bristol City on Saturday. Very much a game of two halves in terms of the style we went with, but ultimately got the 3 points.
Yeah, it's nice to actually talk about a win for a change, isn't it?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It was a perfect away performance, definitely, and thoroughly deserved as well. Because I think it was a bit cagey going in at half time. It could have gone either way. I don't think there was a lot in the game, but I think we had that 20-minute spell where we absolutely dominated them, didn't we? And we could have had one or two. And then the ridiculous decision not to get the penalty as well. I mean, it was an absolute blatant handball. If that's in the Premier League, VAR looking at that, it's a no-brainer. It's straight away, it's a penalty. And what's even more worrying, and obviously we'll talk about the refereeing decisions, especially last night. He's 4 or 5 yards away from that incident as well, which is even more worrying. He's looking straight at it. So, and then it was just really pleasing to get the goal at the end, which we thoroughly deserved. I think it would have been completely unjust if we were wanting to come away with 3 points in that game.
Yeah, I think obviously we hit the post through Sanchez, I believe, as well, and to be honest, I don't really remember too many times where Bristol City threatened our goal, really. I don't think Etheridge had to really work too hard throughout the 90 minutes. And like you said, obviously, second half, we really put our foot on the gas. And for the first time this season, really, we kind of seen what we're actually capable of as an attacking force. Just, obviously, again, and obviously we'll touch on it with last night's game as well. Just seem to be missing that player with the finishing touch as always, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Hogan had one or two opportunities last night, but I don't feel like he had the same sort of level of opportunities against Bristol City. I think a lot of our opportunities came from some good play from the wide areas, which was really pleasing to see, and obviously a bit more energy in the midfield. So Kifton Bell's come back in. And these two performances that he's had, I never saw it. I never saw it coming, to be honest.
Well, Robbo called it when we spoke to him in the Q&A the other week. He sung Kifton Bell's praises. Whether Karanka watches it and picks up on that, then who knows? But you like to say, I mean, he's obviously come into the team with a point to prove, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I think. Well, obviously, it's a few of the players have said that they had a meeting on, I think it was Friday or after the Barnsley defeat, and they've obviously all sort of got their heads together, and I think it's like what we said after the Barnsley game last week. Obviously Karanka's well known for playing 4-2-3-1, and we just want to see it now. We've got the personnel to play 4-2-3-1. We've now brought another number 10 into the club. And that's all the sports want to see, a bit of continuity in terms of the system being played and the formation and the personnel. And I think we saw that last night. We had a really good performance on Saturday. And then there was only one enforced change for last night. And again, we get a good result.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, obviously touching back to Kifton Bell coming into the game against Bristol City, taking the place of San Jose in the midfield, which obviously we spoke about on the last podcast, kind of says he doesn't seem to be up to the pace yet. Do you think Kifton Bell's almost saying, or trying to basically showing San Jose, almost saying this is what you should be doing, this is what I'm capable of, and obviously almost it's good to see the competition there. San Jose is now going to have to up his game, which he's obviously capable of, to muscle his way back into that midfield. That can only be healthy, can't it, for the team overall?
Yeah, definitely. I think like we mentioned a couple of weeks back, and obviously San Jose's been pulled out of the team. He's lacking a little bit of energy now, and it's completely understandable. He's not played he's not been playing first team football for quite a while. And he was playing as as a substitute last season, back end of last season. So, but Kiftembel looks a new player to me. Don't get me wrong; he's still doing all the same things that he was doing in terms of the defensive work. He gets around the pitch, he puts his foot in, he makes tackles, he really disrupts the opponent's play, and he's great at that. But I've always felt with Kiftembel, there's one thing that lets him down massively is his distribution. Gives the ball away time and time again, and he's very frustrating to watch. But the last 2 games that he's played, his passing completion rates have been in the mid 80s to high 80s, which is incredible. I mean, I would not have put money on that. He came out of the game against Bristol City, I think, with 86% pass completion rate. So I don't know whether that's just the coaching that he's had. And people have got into him and said, look, your game is a short game. You don't need to be passing the ball further than 5, 10, 15 yards. Once you get the ball, you give it to someone who's a bit more creative. And that's what he was doing last night as well, picking the ball up quite high up in the pitch. And he was taking his time. And I think he looks a new player to me.
Well, we did used to see Kiftembel in the middle of the park, trying those round the corner, sweeping balls down the line and all sorts of things. Obviously, very rarely pulled them off, which I think, like you say, obviously, whether he's been had an arm around the shoulder from Karanka and said, keep it simple, keep it moving, don't dwell on it, shift it to your next nearest winger, whoever it may be. He's there to break up the play rather than create the chances. That's not what his game's about. So obviously another person who's has had a bit of a renaissance since we last spoke is your mate at left back, Christian Pedersen. Thoughts on his last 2 performances?
Well, yeah, Christian, he did. I mean, he didn't play against Bristol City.
That's a good point, to be fair. Well, last night he looked all right. Last night, didn't he? I think the defence seemed to have had a bit of a rocket from Karanka because they seem like different players again the past few games. All in all,
well, I think performance-wise, you could tell that they had a serious chat on, after the Barnsley game, and Pedersen was one of the players that sort of was pulled out of the team. And we said it after the Barnsley game. We said, I think, we felt that Clark Salter wasn't quite up to speed, and Pedersen had a poor game at the back. San Jose just looked all adrift in the midfield, and he pulled those players out the sides. Obviously, we know Friend isn't going to be capable of playing 3 games a week, or Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. So it was a natural, it was a natural choice to bring in Pedersen at left back, wasn't it, last night? And yeah, he had a good game.
I think it's worth noting again, similar to San Jose. Obviously, you'd imagine San Jose was brought in as a first choice midfielder when he's on the top of his game. Pedersen is clearly the first choice left back, but again, it's almost like putting Friend, who can play left back, in his place, almost saying to Pedersen, you need to step your game up because it's not like last season. There's pressure on you. You're not the only choice at left back now, and you will find yourself out of the team. And again, it just goes to show that while there might not have been the mind-blowing signings at the time, the likes of Friend, for example, it adds that competition in the side that was lacking. And I really think now that this can give our better players a push and really make them find that next level that we know that they're capable of. Let's be honest. We know Pedersen is better than what he's been showing in recent weeks. Hence why he was touted for a Premier League move in January. And obviously San Jose, as we've said many times on here, comes in with a huge reputation, really, in terms of a championship level player now. So we'll see what happens. But moving on, we'll move on to the positive aspects of the game. I know you've got a fair bit to say about the man in the middle last night, but another brilliant performance and another 3 points.
Yeah, another 3 points. I think it was just a brilliant first half, wasn't it? Performance last night, and like a lot of supporters said last night, we were playing almost against 12 men for the majority of that match. And yeah, I did laugh. I did think to myself, Toral's having a really good performance here. And it's quite a coincidence that he's upped his game since we've brought another number 10, shall I say, into the club of the quality that we have done. So, he's obviously thinking, right, I've got to play well now to keep my place in the side. And yeah, I can't see him being dropped for Saturday after that first half performance.
Well, I think we've always said on the podcast since we've signed him, haven't we? And I was always a huge fan of the idea of bringing Toral back, and I was all for the signing when it happened. And I think we've always said if he finds that Toral that played for us on loan under Rowett, he's a game changer, isn't he? He can see a pass, he can pick a pass on the pitch. The only thing he seems to lack is a little bit of pace. But last night, I think he was fantastic, especially in that first half. He was unplayable at times. Obviously, two brilliantly taken goals, whether Hogan interfered with the keeper a little bit for that second goal. But look, sometimes you get away with them and sometimes you don't with those. Again, we saw the best of both worlds in our play last night, didn't we? We was lovely attacking football in the first half and dug in when it mattered in the second.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously a few special mentions for players like we said just a moment ago, Pedersen. He did have a solid game at left back, and again we said it last week, week before that you've got to play the players in their favoured positions, and that is not left wing back and right wing back. A lot more comfortable. Lecco put an absolute shift in front of him down the left side, which helped him out a lot. Tracked back so many times. And Reading just couldn't play for us, and they've got some talented players. Reading have got some useful players. Like saying, they've got Elise, Ajaria, who's a very useful player. I think Elise is touted as being better than Jude Bellingham, according to Reading's fans. So it was nice to see that they couldn't play through us. They got frustrated, and we did the business in the first half. Yeah,
you hear a lot about this Elise, don't you? And I spoke to that Reading fan ahead of the game for the channel on Tuesday night, and who was singing the praises of Elise, but for whatever reason he didn't turn up last night. Comparisons to Jude are just for any young player are just ridiculous in my book. One of them's just won his third consecutive man of the match in the Champions League. He's only 17, so one of them's just disappeared against Birmingham City and was pocketed by Clifton Bell. But not to go fishing at all with them comments. But obviously another again, we actually went for it. Karanka seems to be taking on board the frustrations of the fans, and he's finally letting these attacking players kind of play their own game, really. Like you mentioned, Lecco really put a shift in last night. Body language was completely different to the last time when we spoke about him. He didn't really seem interested, whereas last night he was everywhere. And obviously we've touched on Toral. Scott Hogan, though, another gilt-edged chance last night that he fluffed his lines with a bit. Do you think it's just a case of we just need to be patient with him? As soon as he starts to hit the target, that's it? Or, is there more to it, obviously, in his head now, do you think? Or
it's a really difficult one, Scott Hogan. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think last night he had a good opportunity, didn't he, with the ball, great ball through from Toral, and he just couldn't get it under control. He had a defender breathing down his neck. I don't feel like he felt comfortable having that attempt on his left side. I think if it was on his right side, he would have been a bit happier. But I certainly won't worry. He fits into the system a lot more than Djukovic does. So we've got to give him time.
One thing is we are actually approaching the January window, less than a month away, which obviously it's flown around this time around thanks to the late closing due to COVID. So obviously if we can stay within some sort of touching distance of the top, especially the top half. Who knows what the second half of the season could hold, I suppose. If you can find a player that really fits into this system up top, who's mobile and knows that, who takes these chances when they're presented to them, they don't need 3 or 4 a game to hit the target. You've got the makings of a real good side by the looks of it after the last few performances. I know you want to go on.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to say, sort of touch on what you alluded to earlier with regards to this. The team have been slightly unshackled, shall we say, a little bit in the last couple of games, and Hogan's looked a happier player. His movements have been a lot better. He's been a bit more lively. He's been making a lot more runs. I think he just feels happier when we've got more of the ball rather than just sitting deep and defending all the time. It can be quite demoralising for a lone striker, sitting up top on your own, just wondering whether you're ever going to get a touch of the ball. At the moment, he's getting, there's a lot more opportunities for him to get in behind the defence.
I mean, I don't know if it's just me watching the game last night or whether other people noticed it as well, but I thought there was a lot more getting the ball down but playing our way upfield last night as well, rather than seeing your typical Dean and Roberts diagonals to a 5-foot winger, which obviously again Hogan's movement and the pace in the top half of the pitch can really play to that, can't they? Rather than having your target Mandzukic up there for that. But
yeah,
I think my only issue with Hogan last night is he timed his run to perfection with his chance in the second half. He just needs to check across the line. He needs to time his runs a bit better sometimes. He's offside more often than not last night, wasn't he?
He is, but I would prefer to have a player that's trying to get into those positions and making those attempts at runs rather than like a static striker that's just looking to hold the ball up and feed others. I like to see players on the shoulder of defenders, and last night he could have quite easily bagged the goal for himself. And I think it's also quite it's handy that we've got we've improved the players that we've got in the forward areas. Sanchez can keep hold of the ball. Lecco can actually move and keep hold of the ball as well, and that helps the striker because he knows that the players that are in and around him are going to be in possession of the ball a bit longer than a couple of seconds and then losing the ball.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I know you've got. I think in the podcast group chat last night, you had some very choice words for the man in the middle, Mr. Tim Robinson, for his performance as a 12th man for Reading, even though they also had 2,000 fans in. Obviously, your PC version of his performance last night.
I don't think I've got a PC version, to be honest. I mean, this is the same guy that sent Kieftenbeld off for absolutely nothing at Brentford a couple of seasons back, and then sent Gary Monk off as well. And like you said earlier, we had that red card rescinded within 24 hours. I think we've also had another red card that he's given one of our players rescinded as well. I'm not completely sure who or when, but he's certainly dished out quite a few red cards to our players. I saw on Twitter earlier as well a game he ref, I think it's earlier this season, for Reading against Barnsley, and he sent 2 of their players off, completely changed the game in that one as well, because I think it was 0-0 up until that point. And again, the same situation last night. Dean's first yellow card's not a yellow card, but we don't know whether he said something to the referee that's maybe caused him to get the yellow after the challenge. And then, obviously for the penalty, which was, in my opinion, just a great block. It was 2 players shoulder to shoulder going at it, and it was a goal-saving challenge, and he's given a penalty and sent Dean off.
When you look at the replays,
get that rescinded.
When you look at the replays, Dean is clearly ahead of the man making the block, rather than going through him or swiping his legs. It's just like you say, and they said last night on the commentary, that's just great defending. You can't book a man for great defending. Obviously, it just seems for whatever reason this referee has a disliking for us, I think. And how referees get away with these decisions nowadays, as we've said with VAR many times for the Premier League, is the officials never have to come out and explain their decisions, and they never have to face the press or or explain anything to the fans, which I think kind of doesn't help them when they make decisions like this, because obviously fans are going to get on their case, aren't they?
Of course it is, and like we're seeing with VAR, and it's not cleared. It's not cleared a lot of the decisions up, because unfortunately with football, it still is quite a subjective sport. A foul to one referee can be not a foul to another, and I think that's the same thing. If they brought VAR into the Championship, we're still going to have the same crap referees viewing the replays and still coming up with the wrong decisions.
I mean, obviously, the argument of VAR when it first came in was it's always got to be clear and obvious, hasn't it? They only override clear and obvious errors. But then you look, I was going to say, then you look at the offsides that are given nowadays. You're telling me they're clear and obvious and they need overruling? But people offside by a shirt sleeve is absolutely deluded. And obviously, like you say, there is upsides to it. Not often would Blues benefit from it, I'm guessing, but Bristol City, the penalty that wasn't given. I mean, Callas might as well have just ran off with the ball in his hands and carried on playing rugby. It was that obvious of a handball. So, but obviously the technology needs to be managed better and it needs to be watched better. But ultimately, we just need better officials, don't we? Especially at Championship level, it's such a fast-flowing and competitive league.
Well, yeah, and you know what? The standard of refereeing is so bad, even at Premier League level. I mean, you've got one or two that are of a good level, but we've even got to the point now, even in the Premier League, where they're having to give referees days off from going and doing their roles in the VAR hub, because they don't trust them to even get those decisions right. They're dropping referees from even doing the VAR side of it. So that's even worrying, that you can't trust a referee to even look at a replay several times and get a decision right, let alone on a the pitch of play real time. So yeah, I think the level of referees at the moment, the whole refereeing side of things needs to be overhauled big time in this country, and we're suffering for it big time in the Championship because we haven't got VAR, and the referees that are on the field the majority of them are so poor.
And I don't think I can ever recall a game where we've had a decent referee, and 9 times out of 10.
Okay. Well, I think we had Mike Dean, didn't we, for one of our games? I can't remember when it was. I don't know if it was the back end of last season or whether it was. I can't remember which game it was, and it was actually night and day having a Premier League referee compared to a Championship referee, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I think it's a discussion that's going to rage on and on, isn't it? Because it's been so bad for since we dropped back down to the Championship, or a good 9 years ago. 9 years ago now. So what can we do? We're kind of stuck with these. And until the authorities kind of take notice of these decisions that are being made, and to have a shake-up and do something about it, I think we'll sit here every week and bemoan one decision over.
Yeah, but I think it's just the inconsistencies. You don't mind the referee, being overzealous with booking players as long as he's doing it for both sides. Same goes for if he's not dishing out the yellow cards. There's got to be some give and take both sides. Last night we saw 1 or 2 quite bad challenges from Reading players, and some blatant fouls, shirt pulling and whatnot, and they're getting nothing.
Well, the one that stands out to me is Gardner broke down the right hand side, clearly pushed in the back, pushed over, and just get up and get on with it. The refs wants, but obviously Reading got free kicks and decisions for much less than that.
Yeah.
Obviously, another discussion that's reared its head in past week. Now the fans are back, and obviously I want to get your opinion on it and your views. It's taking the knee, the Black Lives Matter movement, which obviously the players support and the majority of sane fans support. It's nothing about a political movement for me personally. A couple of boos and groans, Millwall. I think there was a few incidents at Colchester and my view as well. Just your take on it, really. What are your thoughts? Is it time that we do more than just take the knee? It's time that surely we really need to stamp it out and eradicate it from the game now, as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, obviously, I think we all just want it eradicated, don't we, from sport and just life in general. You know, racism, there's no place for it. And it's really difficult because, you know, unfortunately, you know, with Black Lives Matter, I think it's become quite political and you can see why, you know, people are doing it. But at the same token, it's frustrating as well because it is still highlighting a massive issue that's going on in society and especially in our game. And we want to keep highlighting it. And I think that's why we keep taking a knee, because we want to keep, you know, bringing it to the forefront of people's minds that, you know, racism's wrong and it needs to be stamped out. So I don't know. I think there needs. It's a really difficult one. I certainly wouldn't boo it. Or I wouldn't boo any player for taking a knee because that is their decision. But I still think there's a lot more that can be done.
What I would say is it's easily misconstrued. Obviously, if they boo it, are they booing the fact that they're doing it? I don't really think that was the case. I think is it more the case that they boo it, it's still going on and yet nothing's changed, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I understand Black Lives Matter is apparently this huge political movement, but I think when it was brought in to take the knee, the players aren't worried about what Black Lives Matter does outside of the football pitch. They're making the point of, you know, everyone's equal. Is basically all they're saying when they take the knee at the start of the pitch. They stand for the message that every single player is equal, every single person who attends a game is equal. And like I say, whether people agree or disagree, you've got to support the players and the message they're trying to get across.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
And obviously you see the issue again, even the official match officials, PSG against Istanbul on Tuesday night. So that just shows how deep rooted it is in our game, and obviously it needs more than just these slogans and to eradicate it. Something really needs to be done, doesn't it? They need to start clamping down on everything, every aspect of it, giving 10 grand fines for clubs when their fans make monkey chants, for example. What does that do? You get fined more for letting your players off the leash and getting 5 yellow cards in a game than you do for your fans racially abusing a player. That doesn't make any difference, does it?
Absolutely. I think it's really difficult. It's a really difficult because, you know, and I feel for countries that, you know, that are struggling with racism, you know, in football, and your national team could work so hard to qualify for a major tournament and then consequently be thrown out of that tournament because of the actions of mindless idiots in the stands is so difficult to, you know, to take, you know. But certainly in terms of the fines and stuff, it needs to be a lot, you know, it needs to be a lot heftier to try and get, you know, the governing bodies to take bigger action against, you know, at the end of the day, if you've got people coming, you know, vast amounts of people coming to a ground and being racist, then they shouldn't be in that ground, and there should be more being done to keep those people out because it's not wanted.
Well, I can only hope that PSG and Istanbul and the actions they took after Tuesday night's incident and refusing to play on that evening can be the start of something, because it's the first real time we've seen both teams put their foot down and say, no, we're not going to continue until you do something about this fourth official. because we won't stand for it. Obviously, there's been incidents in the past, Italy, for example, where players walk off the pitch, but this is the first time where they haven't come back out half an hour later, like nothing has happened. I think this needs to, especially UEFA now, you think, well, I'll take note, and that can only have a knock-on effect, surely, hopefully for the better.
Yes, definitely. Shall we move on to?
Let's move on to.
Let's move on to Saturday.
Let's move on to Saturday. Still no fans for us, unfortunately. But another home game. Watford, another team in the top 6, which means another 3 points for Blues, surely.
Yeah, I would say that if we're away from home, but our home form has been so bad since probably this time last year, hasn't it, really? And it's something that definitely Cranker needs to get to the bottom of and solve, because, I think our away form, I think we're in the top 8, form-wise, away from home this season. But our home form, I think we're in the bottom 4, which sort of, tells a story. I think out of the 5 defeats this season, 4 have been at home. And I think, we've got to find a way of working out how to be more effective at home. I think Watford have only scored 3 goals away from home this season. Had a look earlier. So, if we can keep a clean sheet on Saturday, I feel confident that we might actually take the 3 points. And you know me, I don't normally say, I'm never normally that confident.
I think that's the only time I've ever heard the word confident come out of your mouth, to be honest. Yeah, so looking at the table after last night's game, so here we go. Home form, we have played 8 points, 2 wins, 2 draws, and 4 defeats. Minus 3 goal difference. Away from home, we are in 8th place, played 9, positive 2 goal difference and 14 points. Obviously, the 1 defeat at Norwich, which came in the last minute. Very unfortunate to lose that game, actually, when you look back. We did put a shift in. Norwich had their chances, but I thought the way we defended, we deserved to come away with a point. So, but it definitely seems now he's found the formation that works, hasn't he? He's found the style of play that seems to suit the players that you'd assume will take up the starting 11 positions on Saturday again. And it's about capitalising on Watford's poor away form themselves, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like we just say, hopefully he sticks with this system and this formation. But now we've said that, he'll probably revert back to a 5 at the back on Saturday. But I like to think, having, like they often say in football, what a difference a week can make sometimes. And it certainly, I think, hopefully has for us that we can hopefully go into this game more like a mindset of it. It's a free hit. It's against a Premier League side, probably still are, Premier League level, some of the players that they've got in that side. So let's have a go at them. I don't think it'll get many fans, berating the manager if we go on and lose on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's the same as the Bournemouth game, isn't it? There's still the core is still Premier League quality players that have been there last season. Hence why they're only 4 points off Norwich. But in contrast, like you say, Watford, the best home form in the league so far by a long distance, 4 points clear at top of the home table. Played 9, 22 points away from home. Similar to our home form, played 8 points, minus 1 goal difference. So it's going to be a very interesting game to see how Karanka approaches it. But if you was to put your neck on the line at the minute, score prediction, what do you think for Saturday?
I think my head says a 1-1. I think it'll be a tight game. But obviously my heart hoping for maybe a 2-1 win. But I really don't know. It's going to be, Troy Deeney's going to return, and I've got a bad feeling he's probably going to have a good game. He had a good game the other night. Like you just said, look through their side. They're so strong, and their bench as well. I don't think they've got too many injury concerns. I think they've got about 8 or 9 senior strikers to choose from as well.
Very good options as well. I'd take just a couple of those options at Blues, to be honest. But obviously, we'll stick with Scott Hogan. Give him the chance. Like you say, you never know. All it takes is one goal for him to turn his form around, doesn't it? Now,
I think so. I think he's been doing okay up until now. I think, I don't think there's anything to be alarmed with at the moment with his recent performances. So, but yeah, like we just said, I think the key to our season this year is turning this home form around. I think that's the key. If we can turn this home form around, we could be in for a good season.
We'll end with a new snippet that we've done last week as well, although there wasn't much to shout about, with the 3-word reviews that people have sent us. So someone put most away wins, because we've now won the most away games in second-tier history, which obviously in a way is good. It also just shows we've spent too much time in the second tier.
Yeah, exactly.
What else have we got? That's an interesting one. Someone put "Don't cry, Reading."
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
Starting to click, which we've touched on already.
Yeah, players playing in their favoured positions. It tends to happen.
Yeah, someone. You're cautiously optimistic for one game. Someone's 3-word review was "We're going up."
Yeah, I'm not that optimistic.
Someone
Going up
else
to the top half, maybe.
Yeah. Someone else is in agreement with me. They just put "Keep the green."
Yeah, I think I might go and buy one, mate.
I'm pretty sure you gave me some grief when I told you that I bought this shirt, to be honest. What do you call me? A paramedic?
Yeah, no comment.
You don't need to. It's fine. I'm over it. And then obviously, just quickly before we finish off as well, just want to get your opinions on this academy restructure that's going on. I mean, a lot of people up in arms about it. It's not going to produce another Jude Bellingham, but are they too few and far between, these players that break through, to really be concerned about it anyway?
Yeah, I think the comms was bad from the club. It made it sound like they were closing the whole academy up and shutting it down, and that would be, in my opinion, a bad idea, because obviously you want young lads from the local area aspiring to play for the local club, don't you? And you want more Jude Bellingham. So I think they've got to keep the early ages still in there. But I think what they do need to restructure, and I think what they're going to do is they're going to restructure the under-18s, the under-23s, because, like you just said, there isn't enough of those players stepping up or are good enough and are challenging the players that are in the first team squad. And we all know that Karanka doesn't like a large pool of players in his first team squad, which means that the B teams and the C teams, for example, need to have better quality. And I think like the last sort of 6 months or so, we've been actually recruiting players for the development side. So I think it's been something that's been sort of in motion for a little while now, that we're sort of going more towards the B team model that sort of Brentford have adopted. But I think we definitely need to be keeping the academy as well. That's a no-brainer. You can't get rid of that. You can't go away from coaching kids, and it's just great for the local area to have that. You can't get rid of that. Otherwise, we're going to lose all our potential local talent to rival clubs.
And I think you sort of see with the signing, like you say, of Soldevilla from the young Spanish lad in the summer, that he's obviously a shoo-in for one of these sides, and obviously many others as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've covered a lot in this episode, with a bit of positivity for a change as well. So it's always good, isn't it?
We're probably going to lose 4-0 on Saturday now. I've said that.
Can you wait till I stop recording for that? Well, yeah, that's about all we've got time for anyway. But we'll, well, we might not catch up for a few weeks, obviously, with your little one due. So give you some well-earned time off.
Thanks, mate. Gonna need it.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll speak again soon. If you enjoy this, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Send us your messages, your questions, like Blues Focus Pod on the socials. And until next time, thanks for watching.